Microsoft's Surface Book is starting to show its age. Redmond has been busily producing a new Surface laptop, an updated Surface Pro, and the Surface Studio, but no sign of any more updates to the impressively high-end 2-inch-1 book. A new keyboard last year helped bump the battery and graphical performance, but there's no still Surface Book 2. The original Surface Book and Surface Pro 4 were the debut systems for Intel's 6th generation CPUs, and the upper half of the Surface Book with performance space is effectively the same as the model we reviewed the first time around. The original standard Surface Book, which is still available and is not being discontinued, starts at $1,500. That buys you a Core i5 processor with 8GB of RAM and a 128GB solid-state drive. Opting for the Surface Book with performance space gets you a GTX 965M and a 60 Wh battery, that's in addition to the 18 Wh battery in the tablet. Again, the tablet portion, which contains the display, memory, hard drive, and processor, remains the same. The models that sell with the new performance space start at $2,400, and reach $3,200 with all the bells and whistles. While Microsoft has not ruled out selling the performance space as an upgrade to previous Surface Book buyers, it's not available on its own yet. The Surface Book with performance space now has a true competitor in the form of the HP Spectre X36015, which features a GTX 950M and speedy CPU. Is the Surface Book's neglect a sign of a change in tactic at Microsoft, or a case of not fixing something that isn't broken? Same look, new tricks. The Surface Book sets itself apart with its dynamic fulcrum hinge, which makes it possible to detach the display to use as a tablet. It folds into a rounded edge, just like the spine of a novel, using a mechanism that's similar to a metal watch band. As it curls, it leaves a 1/4-inch gap between the screen and keyboard at the hinge when closed. It's an odd look, and it means loose items can wedge between the screen and keys to pose a scratch hazard. But the strange hinge has a purpose. It lets Microsoft make the keyboard dock lighter, with the hinge acting as stability for the heavier tablet. It also helps the screen sit a little further away from the user in laptop mode, without having to extend the footprint. That means a smaller computer that feels larger once it's actually in use, and improves the perceived fidelity of the display in laptop mode. The dock mechanism holds the tablet half in place with muscle wire, a cable that expands and contracts when a current is applied to it. While the button was a minor annoyance at first, it became second nature quickly, and worked even when the system was turned off or asleep. It's also not prone to failing. I was only able to cause an issue once by intentionally lifting one side and leaving the other engaged. It complained for a moment, then released the latch again, no big deal. Okay, enough about the hinge. What about the rest of the system? It's built from matte silver magnesium, which is durable and light. It may not be everyone's style, but the book's build quality is supreme. There are no panel gaps to speak of, and no matter how the book is handled, it feels tough and sturdy. The book's design can compete with the best in the business. The performance base is thicker, but you might not notice. It's difficult to tell the performance base from the regular base at a glance. Where the previous base curved up slightly to the keyboard, the performance base bulges out a bit more. When the Surface Book is closed, that bulge ends up filling in the gap better than the standard base, but that's the biggest difference. We really can't stress how minor the difference is. While obvious in a side-by-side comparison, it's subtle enough that you might miss it if you hadn't played with the Surface Book before. And importantly, it doesn't make a functional difference. It's in fact a clever use of the fulcrum hinge. Microsoft has used the space provided by the gap to increase the Surface Book's capability, without increasing its size in a way that will decrease portability. The extra room houses an extended 60 Wh battery and a GTX 965M, which should be a marked improvement over the GTX 940M found in the previous model. Ports are few and far between. Connectivity is basically non-existent on the tablet portion of the Surface Book. The only exceptions are 3.5mm audio output in the top right corner of the device, which isn't a great location, as it leaves cords dangling over the keyboard when headphones are attached, and an advertised power port on the bottom. We also found the port a little too snug, so plugging a device in, or removing it, means playing tug-of-war with the device. The base of the laptop serves up the connections you'd normally expect from a laptop. On the left side, there are two USB 3.0 ports next to the SD card slot. Around the right is Mini DisplayPort and Microsoft's new power plug. That's almost the exact set of connections the X1 Yoga and XPS 13 offer, with an important omission: Type-C. USB Type-C, common on competitors, is not found here. The Surface Book has a similar connection layout to the X1 Yoga in that sense. The Dell XPS 13 is the best of both worlds, with the same connections as the Book, but a Type-C plug instead of a dedicated video connection. The HP Spectre X36015 is of course forward-looking enough to include both a selection of classic ports and a Type-C connection. The power plug has a few nice features, in that it's both reversible and magnetic. However, plugging it in can be a bit awkward when the Book is lying flat on a desk, although it's not as bad as the VAIO's awkwardly loose power connection. The center slot for the dock connection doubles as a power connection when in tablet form, and is placed well for holding the tablet without getting in the way, but the fact that this works isn't included in any of the documentation. The stars of the Surface Book are the touchscreen and stylus, and Microsoft has clearly learned some important lessons from the earlier Surface products. The redesigned pencil feels sturdy, and begs to be used for every task. The screen can see the pen's tip from as far as half an inch off its surface, so clicking and tapping on objects is simple and responsive. The value of that becomes clear as soon as the pen is picked up. Writing on the screen or drawing in an app is a naturally smooth, flowing experience. While a stylus is often depicted as a tool for artists, it also makes Windows easier to use as a tablet. The operating system still includes fine-grained fonts and icons that are hard to hit with a fingertip. When you put down the pen, and start using the touchpad, you'll be just as pleased. It's big and wide, with a smooth gloss touch surface that reads gestures and movements while ignoring light touches deftly. Clicking the integrated buttons offers up a solid action without too much travel, and assuming tap to click is off, there won't be any accidental clicks here. The keyboard is less compelling. The keys have a distinct, rounded edge to them, with a tall, soft touch. There's a lot of travel, which leads to them feeling a bit stiff or chalky out of the box, but after some use the feeling fades. We didn't notice any difference in keyboard feel between the standard Surface Book and the Performance Base, despite the latter's slightly thicker frame. This is even after a side-by-side comparison. There's also no difference in layout. A white backlight illuminates the symbol on each key, but depending on the angle, it doesn't provide full coverage under each letter. Worse, in brightly lit rooms or outside, the backlight makes the keys harder to see. The light matches the chassis color, making the letters blend in. Turning the backlight off actually improves visibility. Keyboard and touchpad are both strong points for the HP Spectre X36015 on the other hand. In addition to a spacious ImagePad and deep keyboard, it boasts a 4K touchscreen with pen support. It doesn't have quite the precision or sensitivity as the Surface Pen, but is a nice touch that a lot of systems don't offer. The Surface Book's 13.5-inch 3000x2000 pixel Sense display is unusual because of its 3:2 aspect ratio, which means the screen is taller than usual, relative to its width, than a typical 16:9 laptop. In a way, it's a blast from the past, as many systems sold a decade ago used the similar 4:3 ratio. Going with 3:2 means that movies will be displayed with significant black bars across the top and bottom, but it's a better choice for working with documents and productivity apps, as most display data vertically. Adding width doesn't let the user see more of a Word document,